called by the President, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma. It is indeed his personal media briefing that he's called, and therefore a special one. With that, let me welcome and introduce the leadership. Let me introduce President Zuma. Welcome, President. I'll then follow with the chairperson, national chairperson, Comrade Nkosinathi Nhleko, the deputy national chairperson, Comrade uMkhonto, the Secretary General, Dr. Bongani Mngwango, the national organizer, Comrade Alec Nkuna, the Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Nomsa Dlamini, the Head of Presidency, Head of International Relations as well, Mzobe Makasela. With that, I'm going to call upon, my name is Nhlamulo Ndlela. Members of the media, by now you obviously know me, we interact quite a bit. I'm going to call upon the chairperson to then read out the statement on behalf of the president, and then from there, as per the tradition, we'll take the necessary questions. Thank you. Chairperson. It seems like you're going to have to hold it.
So I've got to hold it. Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm reading the statement. I'm reading the statement of the President of uMkhonto Sizwe, the party, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma. A world at crossroads and a nation in search of its own. Comrades and compatriots, we gather at a time of global uncertainty, where economic turbulence and social collapse in the so-called developed world are laying bare the failures of neoliberal capitalism. Across continents, we are witnessing the rise of movements that challenge the dominance of the Western political and economic order, a system built on exploitation, subjugation, and perpetual inequality. Africa stands again at the epicenter of this struggle, not merely as a spectator, but as a decisive actor in shaping the contours of a new global reality. The world's attention is fixed on Africa's minerals, markets, and youthful population. Yet, as always, the question remains, who benefits from Africa's wealth? In our beloved South Africa, the political landscape is equally volatile. The so-called government of national unity, a fragile elitist pact of political rejects, has exposed the moral and intellectual bankruptcy of those who seek to govern without legitimacy. It is an arrangement born not of democratic will, but of desperation to maintain the status quo and to prevent true transformation. It is in this context that uMkhonto Sizwe party stands as the legitimate continuation of the liberation struggle, as the revolutionary alternative to the stagnation of the current order, and as the political home of all South Africans who yearn for genuine freedom, justice, and dignity. Comrades, our country is gripped by a deep moral and institutional crisis. We salute the bravery of Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and the members of the political killings task team, whose explosive revelations have shaken the very foundations of the criminal justice system. His courage has exposed how the state apparatus is manipulated to protect the interests of the few whilst persecuting the many. As MK, we demand full accountability from those implicated, and therefore we will use every parliamentary and legal instrument at our disposal to ensure that the truth triumphs over corruption and cover-ups. We are particularly concerned about the use of state police resources to protect private corporate interests, as witnessed in the Richards Bay minerals, a scenario disturbingly reminiscent of when Cyril Ramaphosa infamously called for quote-unquote concomitant action against the Marikana miners, which led to the massacre of 34 innocent workers. Once again, the lives of Black South Africans are treated as expendable in defense of private capital. We reiterate our commitment and support for the work of the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee into allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwana, as only Parliament can hold the executive to account and bring real criminals to justice. We should also make South Africans aware that that will be a true test of the so-called GNU when the time comes for Parliament to vote for or against the implementation of the outcomes of the Ad Hoc Committee Parliamentary Report. As MK, we have no hope that the GNU will vote positively for the implementation of the report, which aims to hold Mr. Ramaphosa and his cabinet accountable. We further call upon the Constitutional Court to unseal the CR17 bank statements and for the Ad Hoc Committee to call upon IPID to declassify the Phala report. uMkhonto Sizwe, the party, rejects the Roman Dutch legal framework which continues to govern our society in contradiction to our indigenous African value systems. We renew our call for lifestyle audits of the members of the judiciary and General Mkhwana's allegations with political manipulation. This further confirms MK Party's view that the judiciary has been corrupted and over-compromised. The so-called government of national unity is nothing but a coalition of the compromised, a conglomerate of opportunists who have been rejected by the people yet cling to power through elite pacts and backroom deals. They cannot liberate our people because they are captives of the same system our revolution seeks to dismantle. On the international front, the president's recent visit to Ghana focused on geoeconomics and the future of African sovereignty. The discussion centered on the de-dollarization agenda, the BRICS currency initiative, and lessons for Africa's own common currency. We reject the continued domination of Africa's financial system by Western currencies and institutions. A multipolar world demands a new financial architecture, one that serves humanity, not hegemony. His Excellency President Zuma recently returned from Russia as part of the international relations work he continues to do and will soon brief party structures and the nation on developments. As part of his continued work of flying the South African flag high, President Zuma will next week lead an MK Party delegation on a visit to Burkina Faso. Given the magnitude of the international relations and geopolitical work President Zuma continues to do, he has undertaken a decision to appoint a second deputy president to oversee internal and broader political organizational issues. Comrade Dr. Hlophe continues to be the deputy president focusing on the work of the party in parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude, we reflect that a year later, in this month of October, where the forgotten children that died in October 2024 in Naledi, Soweto, after consuming poisoned snacks from a spaza shop, we remember Karabo Rampo, Jabulo Msimang, Zintle, Ida Mama, Monica Sebedwan, and Isaho Mabot. In their honor and in pursuit of justice, as MK, we will file a class action against the so-called GNU to hold them accountable and get justice for the families that lost their children. Comrades, we are a generation that must complete the mission begun by our forebears, the total emancipation of the African person. The MK party represents that historic continuity, that revolutionary flame that refuses to be extinguished. Though our enemies conspire, infiltrate, and attempt to derail our progress, we, like the phoenix, shall rise from the ashes of betrayal and stagnation. To reclaim our land, we shall rise to restore the dignity to our people. We shall rise to govern this country in the interest of the majority, not the privileged few. The journey ahead is ours, and to deliver final phase of liberation, the total emancipation of our people. It's a revolution rekindled, a nation reborn. Kwaza, uMkhonto Kwaza.
Thank you, National Chair. I'm going to call upon the President to introduce the second Deputy President of uMkhonto as Sizwe. Comrade President.
Siyabonga baba, siyabonga. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, Mphathi wohlelo. Sanibonani nonke. Nani bomana lapha ngitshena. Angeniqamba ngegama elimnandi kangaka. Uyamiswa nje busu uyatshenwa nje. Uyayibona. Thank you very much indeed. As we have heard that uMkhonto Sizwe is growing, and it is one of the bigger political parties in the country. And it is indeed there to change the situation of our country that those who were given that chance to do have failed to do. As you know, we have a deputy president whom we put in a very serious area to lead those of our people who are in parliament. A very serious and well-known comrade, lawyer by profession, not just a lawyer, not a small lawyer, or tumela bambenda bekhulu phambili. No. Imeli o serious. Okwazi ukugweba zonke izinto noma sekuthiwa ziqhamuka ngaphi. Niyamazi ke nani ngoba insizwe ekhulumayo. Simnikeza umsebenzi wakhe ukuthi abe u-deputy president abese a leader e-parliament. But given the task and the growth of our organization, we want him now to concentrate mainly in parliament and deal with parliamentary issues and laws and legal things or whatever. He can't do that and also be at the office, the main office. We have therefore added, as we have said, another leader who's going to be with us all the time. Partly also, by the way, because the current president of uMkhonto Sizwe, I'm sure you all know, maybe there's not a single one here with my age. Is there? And therefore, we are strengthening our work of our party because we are looking forward. We are not looking other side of the mountain. We look at the mountain. Which we are going to take and lead this country is a serious matter. We have decided to have one of our cadres who have been with for years. His name Kochiwe. That comrade of ours who's going to join us at the leadership, the top leadership, is Tony Yengeni. Kuphuka mfana kithi uzosijoyina la. Yini kukhona abangashaya izandla lapho? Anijabuli. Kwakhona abangashaya izandla, Mhlole. Thank you. Singahlala phansi. Tony Yengeni is a cadre of many, many years. The cadre who took a decision to leave the country as a young man, to go and prepare himself to fight to free the black South Africans in South Africa. Indeed, he did everything that was supposed to be done and added the political education. And he has remained a very solid leader, solid cadre. Just to tell you one little thing, when one of our leaders who was sent to Lesotho in a very, very, very difficult way, how to move from outside South Africa into the intestine of it, to be part of Lesotho. Pisani was sent there to lead the operations from there. When he was taken away, we sat and took a decision to send this young man to go and take the place that was held by that leader that I've just mentioned, Krisani. And he operated from Lesotho and finally penetrated the country into the Cape Town and operated there. So we are talking about the man who knows what to liberate is. This is now one of our Deputy Secretary General of uMkhonto Sizwe. Ozonikhulula nonke noma ningafuni. So nikhulula. Nikhulula impela ngci. Sigcwele intishu. Ngitheni mina? Ngithe Secretary General. Ungakwenza nalokho masimnika. Hlamba nazi. Uyakwazi ukwenza konke la ayikho into angakwazi ukuyenza lo. The only thing angakayenzi kuba president. Kodwa konke okunye deputy president ushona enzansi do secretary deputy secretary yini ngakayenza. In any case, that is a man who is now going to be working with us all, also helping me. When I met him when I was also not young but older than him, but I've been Gijima. But manje sengilindele ukubona ukuthi akhona namaqhawela akwazi ukubhala iqiniso. Kwavete kwavuma omunye kuphela. Abanye abalibhali. So I just thought I should mention this because here is a man who's going to be working with me in the leadership of this party. We come from very far with him. I trust him as I trust many cadres that I fought with, that I worked with, that I did everything. Mafuna wazi-ke mangisithanda indawo nizosondela kimi noyithola. Ngeke ngisho manje. Siyazwana. Nizwe kahle. Okay. Kulungileke. Fana kithi. Hololo. Wena uphethe.
Thank you, President. Welcome, Comrade Tony Ngeni, Second Deputy President of uMkhonto Sizwe Party. I'm going to call upon Comrade, in this case, no. I'm going to call upon yourselves to then ask us questions to the comrades that are sitting up front here. Yeah, but of course. Okay. The second deputy president is going to give us a brief statement. No questions to him. That's where I was going. Second deputy president. Thank you.
Comrade President Jacob Zuma, the leadership of uMkhonto Sizwe, dear comrades, members of uMkhonto Sizwe here present, and dear members of the Fourth Estate. I am going to make a very brief statement, and the caption of my statement is my brief journey with President Zuma. The problems of this country are primarily that of leadership. We have leaders who love themselves more than they love their people and country. But Comrade Jacob Zuma is different. He still stays in his rural village in Kandla, where he originates from. Throughout his adult life, through struggle and sacrifice, he has demonstrated his undying love for his people and country. He has now decided, even at his advanced age, not to retire, but to continue the struggle for social and economic freedom and prosperity of his people until the last of his days. His vision and wisdom continues to shape the nature and content of the current political struggle and contestation in our country today. That vision inspires millions of South Africans to rise and take full responsibility for their own lives, for their own freedom and prosperity. Let me take you back to January 1977. I was a young man then, crossing the border into Lesotho with my brother Norman, who, as you may know, later in life retired as a general in the South African National Defence Force. We were stepping into exile, into uncertainty, into a life of struggle. South Africa was burning after the Soweto uprising of 1976. The regime was brutal. Thousands of young people were leaving the country, determined to join uMkhonto with Sizwe, the People's Liberation Army. It was there in Maseru that I first met Comrade Chris Hani, a giant and titan of our struggle. Comrade Chris commanded me to stay and assist with the political education of the avalanche of young comrades crossing the border. And so, even before I picked up an AK-47 rifle, I was tasked to be a political instructor, to prepare our youth to understand why we are engaged in struggle and what kind of society we wanted to build. In 1978, I left for Angola for military training. When I graduated from the regular course in guerrilla warfare in 1979, I took my oath in front of President Oliver Tambo himself. President Tambo gave our detachment the singular honor of naming it the Isandlwana Detachment. Our detachment was named after that great battle where our forefathers and warriors fought bravely with only spears and shields to defeat a British garrison using superior weapons. Exactly 100 years before, in 1879. In that same year, OR declared the year 1979 the year of the spear in honor of those Isandlwana warriors and many other martyrs that had made the supreme sacrifice during our liberation struggle. Thereafter, I, together with other comrades, were chosen to undergo a commander's course. That commander's course was carried out by Soviet instructors from the Red Army. After completion, I was sent to Moscow to the Lenin School. This was an international ideological school with cadres from all continents in the world. It was there that my political and ideological consciousness was sharpened and deepened. Just before graduation, Comrade Chris and Comrade Slovo came to see us at the Lenin School. They told me that I was not going back to Angola. From Moscow, I was to be deployed in Lesotho. The apartheid regime had threatened the then Lesotho Prime Minister, Liabua Jonathan, with invasion unless Chris was removed from Lesotho. Chris was removed from Lesotho by the ANC and redeployed to Mozambique, and I was sent to Maseru to continue with his work. I became the SACP regional convener and became part of the ANC political military command. It was in Lesotho that I came to work closely with Comrade Jacob Zuma. In December 1982, the South African Defence Force launched a bloody raid on Maseru. 42 people, our comrades, including Lesotho citizens, were slaughtered in cold blood. The world would come to know it as the Maseru massacre. The United Nations condemned it, but for us and the bereaved families, it was extremely traumatic, emotional, and personal. After the massacre, President Tambo sent Comrade Zuma to Maseru. His task was to help us organize the mass burial and manage the difficult political environment. I watched him work calm, methodical. It was Zuma who ran the operation for the sudden electrifying appearance of OR on that very morning of that burial. Of course, the masses went wild seeing their beloved leader, OR, in person after such a long time in exile. Imagine the courage it took to bring OR into a war zone like that, and then just as suddenly spirited him out and have him appear safely in Lusaka that very night. That is Zuma. Quiet, resourceful, reliable, trustworthy. From that time onwards, Comrade Zuma was often deployed to Lesotho by OR and the Revolutionary Council. His job was to manage the sensitive relations between the ANC and the Lesotho government. And so from those days in the Mountain Kingdom, through tragedy and resistance, he and I forged a bond that would carry us into the democratic era. Then in Parliament, I served as Chief Whip of the ANC. Comrade Zuma was Deputy President and leader of government business. And Comrade Freni Chinwala was Speaker. May her soul rest in peace. Every Monday morning, the three of us met in the Speaker's office to coordinate our parliamentary program. Different times, different arena, same comradeship. History has its trials. The so-called arms deal was one of them. Both of us were dragged into it. We were the only two senior leaders charged. I was convicted in the so-called car discount case, which was politically motivated and thoroughly shameful in the manner it was handled. They even sent me to prison. Guess who came to Mamasbury prison to visit me? Comrade Jacob Zuma, Deputy President of the ANC. That solidarity cut very deep. Later, they went after Zuma himself, charging him with the arms deal, a case that has been hanging over his head for more than 2 decades. Justice delayed is justice denied. The fact that that trial drags on today is a serious travesty of justice. And it shows how the justice system can be manipulated and abused. By 2007, at the much talked about Polokwane conference, Comrade Zuma was contesting for the presidency of the ANC. I was proudly leading from the front in support of uMkhonto. That conference was not about politics only. It was about ensuring that the ANC remains the champion of the aspirations of the poorest of the poor. uMkhonto won that conference hands down. He did not buy that conference. That conference and its outcomes was an open expression of the democratic will of the vast majority of ANC delegates. Fast forward, When the Concord decided to throw Comrade Zuma to prison without a trial, I was one of those outraged thousands of the masses that descended upon Inkandla to declare our contempt, our indignation, and rejection for that Concord verdict, and our overwhelming unrelenting support and solidarity with Comrade Zuma. Even when Msholozi later formed uMkhonto with Sizwe, our bond endured. When the ANC took disciplinary action against him, Msholozi called upon me to represent him before the DC. I readily agreed. In moments of crisis, a true leader turns to those he trusts most. Till today, I remain a regular visitor. Till today, I remain a regular visitor to his homestead in Nkandla. We sit together, we deliberate, we debate the crisis our country is facing, searching for ways to resolve them. The bond we fought in exile, in Angola, in Moscow, in Lesotho, in parliament, in prison, continues to this day. That bond was forged in the crucible of struggle. We have shared in victories and endured humiliations. We have been tested by fire. We have been through the eye of the needle. From time immemorial, outstanding individuals have and do contribute in the making of history. And those outstanding personalities have to be acknowledged and celebrated during their lifetime. Yet to be truly great, leaders must at all times assert their primacy, pledge their loyalty, and serve the organized will of the masses of our people. This struggle for social and economic emancipation, led by MK and other Black political organizations, is not about me or yourself, or anyone for that matter. It is about the heart and soul of the land of our ancestors and its people, the People's Republic of South Africa. Glory and dignity, the glory and dignity of South Africa and its people, and among other nations, must and will be restored. South Africa and its people must and will be free. Amandla.
Baba. Kwaza uMkhonto kwaza. As I said before, I called the second deputy president up. There won't be any questions for the second deputy president today. That time will come, not today. With that, let me welcome Deputy President Dr. John Hlophe Mandlakayise. We're now going to give the members of the media an opportunity to ask questions, and we will then call upon the leadership to respond to those questions accordingly. So with a show of hands, we will take the first 5 and then so on. You already know the tradition by now. So where do we go? First hand there, 2, 3. Okay. Let's start with the first question. Name, surname, and the media outlets that you represent.
My name is Willem Pungula. I work for independent media. Now, if I have an opportunity, or if I have an opportunity, I will have asked Mr. Yenken whether he has done from the ANC. But that now that we can ask this question, so I will left it hanging. So my question is that, okay, now, Thanks for the address. Some of the questions have been answered, but one of them, I want to know whether, or maybe I don't need a comment from the president about the court ruling in Pretoria, so that ordered him to pay back 28 million. So I want to comment on that. What is the view of the party and the president? Right? Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Londi Wekumete. I'm a freelance journalist. I work for Vuma FM and many other media houses. My question is to the president of uMkhonto, Sizwe. Bab Zuma, are you going to pay back the money? If you are going to pay back the money, how are you going to pay it? Any plans or measures in place to pay back this money? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Nkosi Kona Malina Mnisi. I'm with ENCA. I've been partly covered by my colleagues on some of the questions, but perhaps to the issue of this latest announcement of Mr. Yengeni as the second deputy president of the organization. I mean, the president could have chosen anyone else, but perhaps can we just get an understanding what informed the decision, one, of having the second role, in as much as it's been said that Dr. John Klop will focus on the duties of Parliament, but really what necessitated it, perhaps the broader explanation and elaboration on the two different roles and what their duties will essentially then entail, and perhaps any other reason beyond what we've been told. The second question pertains to issues around the sort of bodies established to investigate the allegations by General Mkhwanazi. The party has been against the establishment of the Madlana Commission, but quite interestingly, and you've conceded to it in your own statement, you are in support of the ad hoc committee looking into the very same allegations. Has your position changed? Because it appears as if the Madlana Commission is giving us an in-depth sort of aspect of these allegations and where they stem from and what we're really looking at. So has your perspective changed on the Madlana Commission? Are you perhaps continuing to challenge its establishment and all of the other side aspects to it? For now, I'll rest there. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm a freelance journalist. It's a slightly different question. I want to focus on politics. The politics was. Oh, okay. Really. Thank you. And it's a slightly different question. It's more about the politics in KwaZulu-Natal. And the MPA party was President Zuma confirmed that indeed they're in talks with the ANC to cock up in KwaZulu-Natal. And if yes, how will the arrangement look like? How many positions will go to the MPA party? And how many positions will go to the ANC? Thank you.
Is that the last question? I thought you guys were going to ask serious questions. You're asking us about 28 million rand. But nonetheless, the first question that came from Willem Pongod,
That's correct.
where they're asking President pertaining to the 28 million rand judgment that was handed down yesterday. I guess everyone is asking and wanting to know if you're going to pay back the money and how we're going to handle it as a party. President? But it's called itself. Oh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia. When the matter was discussed, I was not here, I was abroad. I'm going to be meeting my lawyers to say where do we take the matter. So I can't be answering because I was not there. We've made an arrangement to meet with my lawyers to take that matter forward. And that matter will be handled. You'll get to know then at the time as to what is our approach to that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Is there a sound problem?
Yeah.
So you can't, am I not audible?
Yes.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So do you want me to repeat what the President said?
Still not getting it.
Where's the other mic? Is this one better? Can you hear me? Can you hear me though? Can you hear me at the back? Let me ask a question. I keep saying, can you hear me? You're quiet. Oh, the cameras are not picking up the audio from the feed. Indeed, but it's not. The President, in his response, said that when the judgment in this matter was unfolding, he was overseas. The Russia trip that was mentioned. And that when he then landed, and upon hearing the outcome of this judgment, he then called upon his legal team, and he will then engage with his legal team in due course. At that point, uMkhonto, Sizwe, and the President will respond in terms of what the way forward is. That was the President's response. Okay. And I think, Lombi, you're from Vuma, your question has also been answered effectively. Because you asked, are we going to pay the money back? So that has been addressed. It's answered. Third one, Nkosi Khona, ENCA. Why do we have a second deputy president? And you wanted us to unpack the role more than we've actually, so the national chair, they want us to expatiate on that role. So I'll call upon the national chair to further articulate the roles. National chair.
Uthe bani lo bebuzumbuzo bani Nkosi Khona. Oh, Nkosi Khona, I think that question has been adequately responded to, both in the statement in terms of, for an example, let me give you a practical example. The President is now 2 days back in the country because of the work assignments at an international level. I think in the next day or two, he's also leaving the country. Now, what is being put across simply is this, is that at a practical level, he's becoming more consumed by international work, and therefore you need a second deputy president to focus on the internal matters and the internal matters and the workings of the organization on an ongoing basis. And that the first deputy president focuses largely, because he's the leader of MK as the party in parliament, that he focuses on that particular front. Now, So if you ask as to what is it that necessitated the appointment, I don't know what more can be said except just simply this particular factor, which is more of the material circumstance as it faces the organization. Now, I'm sure somebody is going to respond on the question Kamadlanga Commission. The only issues I want to deal with, I don't know who asked whether we are going to Oh, okay. Now, I will also deal with that question, but I'm sure a statement was issued on the question of our position with regards to the Madlanga Commission. Now, but what I want to deal with are broadly the governance matters that are facing this country, relating to exactly that work Madlanga Commission as well as the other committee work in Parliament. I think as ordinary people who should be concerned that this country is getting more commissioned, and it's in the manner in which it's being governed. Everything. Should something happen, no, we will set up a commission to investigate this and so on. Now, there's a style of doing things which is commonly referred to as filibustering. In a sense, this is what we're beginning to witness. Instead of decisions being taken at a decisive level to deal with issues, no, you opt not to do that. You must set up a commission. The commission must tell you the exact thing that you know. It only gives you time, to play around with and so on. For instance, you can have the Madlanga Commission as you have it today. 6 months later, a decision will not be taken. There will be a possible extension for the commission to exist and so on. So you are therefore going to have quite a stretch of time in hearing things out, but decisions are not being taken. It's the same thing that we witnessed with a political gimmick called the Zondo Commission. Something that's set for, I think, over a year, if I'm not mistaken. And still up until today, you don't have decisions taken around the question of whatever transpired at that particular level and so on. So the likelihood, because part of the problem in this country is that you have all the instruments in place that enable you at the level of government to be able to take decisions. No, you don't do that. You set up a commission that arrives at recommendations, but you also opt out as government to implement those particular recommendations. And I think we should be extremely worried about this, because a straightforward matter such as the one that the Madlanga Commission is dealing with, there are various institutions and instruments within the state that can easily deal with those particular matters and put them to finality. But instead, we are being treated to a particular show, which is likely to drag on for quite some time. And I think we should be worried about these kinds of developments. But I would ask people that dealt with the issue of the statement around the Madlanga Commission to restate what our position is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Not at all.
Just on what Sizwe has said, as the media, why are you not questioning what government is doing, not putting things correctly as they are. Why are we not querying that if we are to say South Africa is what we want it to be? As he has just said, there are accusations. Instead of those accusations taken to court or whatever, there are judges. Even when we said the manner in which we dealt with the elections were wrong, we put a case up to this day has not been taken to court. Why are you not questioning these things? That's a question towards you guys who are supposed to help us.
President, it's selective questioning. Nkosi khona. ENCA. I think the issue of the Madlanga Commission has been dealt with, but I think if you recall, the Madlanga Commission was announced at the time after General Mkhwanazi made the pronouncement and made the allegations. Where at that point in time, we called upon the president to fire the police minister, Senzo Mkhunu, because there was prima facie evidence that linked him to criminality. That is the basis at which this whole process started. We then stated that we're not necessarily against the Madlanga Commission, we're against how it was actually formed and the basis at which it was formed, which we said it was for political patronage. He should have fired his friend, instead he puts him on a leave of absence. That is the basis at which we are raising concerns as a party that is official opposition that is responsible in parliament. That why should there be money spent of 148 million? And the fact that, by the way, the chief evidence leader, Thierry Mutau himself, who has now stepped down, raised concerns about the money allocation. That alone should tell you that uMkhonto Sizwe is correct in its stance. The other point that we need to make is that if you look at the current members of the commission, these are the same chief evidence leader from the Marikana Commission. Justice Madlanga himself was the chief evidence leader in the Marikana Commission. You look at Sisi Baloy, she was the evidence leader on the police side. Justice Charles Kinson was under Madlanga, Marikana Commission. Same players are now in the Madlanga Commission. You read between the lines. So we're just saying that there is no need, when you have an ad hoc committee in parliament that can hold the executive to account for South African taxpayers' money to be spent the way that it is, especially in the manner that it was brought about. Not to say we're against the Madlanga Commission. Let's bring that clarity. Okay? Thanks. The other question from Sihle Mavuso. They must answer your question. They have not answered your question. So Nkosi Khona, President asked you a question. Where is Nkosi Khona? There he is. The President asked you a question. The mic, he wants to hear your response. Oh, nabanye. Naninbuze.
All right. Thank you very much for the question. I've got many colleagues in the room, but I'll just briefly say in answering, I think our industry is doing a stellar job at the job at which we are tasked to do. We go above and beyond in delivering on what we're supposed to deliver in a fair manner. And I think many of our colleagues will attest to that. And I think we always come under scrutiny and attack, but we take it in a very professional manner. And I think that's where I'd like to leave the response at. Thank you.
Can I go? It's Londiwe Kumete again. The question is directed to the president. No. President.
Sorry, one last element. And I also think when we look at, for example, the issue around the allegations of within our criminal justice system, much would not be known if it wasn't for some of our colleagues in this industry.
One question is very clear. Why are you not telling me the wrong thing in that? Simple. Don't talk about how much it takes to be
Well, Mamalala, the simple answer is we are challenging. You and I, we can have a sit down, we can arrange to sit down and unpack the question.
You asked questions here. We answered you. We are asking a question from you. Answer it. Simple.
I've answered.
Don't you talk about our votes?
I've answered the question.
They clearly can't answer, President. We'll give them a thing. But, President, the one question we should ask him from ENCA is that they came to Nkandla just before the elections. When they did an interview, they spent 2 hours with you. I was in that interview. Till today, they've not played your interview. They must answer why.
That's the second question.
They have still seen our interview with President Zuma. What was the next question?
Okay.
Yes, indeed. So the system was also asked a question. So then, before we come to, let's just engage with Sizwe. Sizwe's question was around KZN and the governing of KZN.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
They should answer all the questions. You must answer them from.
We're coming back to this one, President.
Thank you very much. Just a recap. Is the MK party in talks with the ANC to co-govern KwaZulu-Natal? If the answer is yes, how many seats will go to the ANC? How many seats will go to the MK party? And again, have you also engaged the EFF, considering that there is a fallout between the two political parties at national level? Thank you.
I'll call upon the SG to respond to that. I don't know which fallout you're talking about, because we have a progressive charter that we've signed in Parliament. But in any case, that's what you're reading into it.
All right. Good morning to you all. Thank you, Mavuso, for your question. I think before I respond to your question directly, we have to remember that uMkhonto Sizwe is probably the first political organization or movement that registered phenomenal growth within 5 months. As such, it's been a very, very rough but fast pace that we've been moving at. Then we decided to embark on a strategy, define it properly, that will take us to a landslide victory in 2026 local elections, and then 2/3 majority in 2029. All of these things have necessitated the relook of our organization. It's not just a movement, but now it's got to be an corporate structure, an organization that has got trusted systems and processes. Part of that process has to be to beef up the human capital, the intelligence, the experience, the expertise of the cadres that we have at a higher structure. That's one of the reasons we have uComrade Tutoni. And it's in line with your question, Mavuso, looking at how we want to go to 2026 and 2029. We have taken a deep look at how we will be positioning ourselves. We have then charted a new theme called
we are poised to take power and govern. Sikulungele ukubusa. And we said, why not start with KZN? Hence, we won this province, we believe, with 2/3 majority, but we were told that we won it with only 45%. The question is, why are we being governed by people that got 14%, 18%? We have decided to reclaim our province because it rightfully belongs to uMkhonto Sizwe. And in doing so, we have decided to throw a motion of no confidence in the executive, particularly the premier. But we will not dish out the details at this stage. Your question was ANC and us. I can tell you now that is a premature question. There are no seat discussions at this stage, and there is no direction that we are talking to any of the parties in the legislature in KZN. That will be divulged in due course. At this stage, we are just doing it and running it our way as uMkhonto Sizwe. Thank you.
Oh, I'm going to call upon the chair. It's right here. To further expatiate on that, I guess he's got a view. Is it?
No, ladies and gentlemen, because I was conferring with the president that we shouldn't expect an answer from the journalist, his question. So in a sense, when I'm coming to your rescue, Nina, as journalist. You know, and I think you should understand why. You are not decision makers. You are pawns in a particular game. So, and I think we need to have an appreciation of that as a factor. For instance, you're not a decider in terms of the content of this very same interview in terms of the final product. Somebody else who yields economic power in this country, somebody else, and that person happens to be white, by the way, yields such power economically that he or she can determine the final output of what you're doing here. So, wona nkosikhona owacishoba nkosinathi. I think that we must appreciate, but what that means also is that yourselves as operatives in this particular industry, you need to be together with South African people in the effort to transform exactly this very same industry. So that we shouldn't, because right now, I can tell you, the media in this country is on the other side of morality. You know, I'll give you an example. It has never happened to anyone, including ordinary criminal, I think, in this country, that tholakala imali embhedeni wakho nokusofa wakho. Hayi omunye umuntu wakho endlini yakho. No, emzini wakho, right? And there's no noise about this thing. When I'm saying you're on the other side of morality, ask yourself a question. Had it been President Zuma that such an circumstance happened to? I'm telling you, we're not going to sleep, right? Now, and that's what we need to correct. Because principle is principle. If something is correct, it is correct. Something that is wrong. Finish. Right? There shouldn't be, oh yeah, no. You have a law in this country that says money in your possession in your own private residence cannot be in excess of 25,000 rands. That's the law. Right? And you preside over an institution that upholds the law and implements that law, but it happens to be you, no, we shouldn't raise issues about that and so on. It can't be correct. So that's why I think at the center of this question that is being posed by the president, it's not just simply a question that you should be wishy-washy about in trying to respond to, but it's a question that we should read in context that says the media as an industry has got to be transformed. Because your duty, is to inform, but also educate and tell the truth to ordinary members of the populace. That's what you need to do. But in the manner in which things are happening, and of course, in the manner in which this thing appears to be happening, it is such that it's pursuing the interests of a particular class. And that class excludes you and me. You as an ordinary journalist, you are not part of that class, which is propagating its own particular sort of interest for the objectives of a perpetual control and societal control by the few, because they happen to yield economic power. So, ngiyacela President ukuthi ubaxolele ukuthi ngeke bawuphendule lo mbuzo njengamanje ngoba vele abekho in the position okwazi ukuphendula lo mbuzo. Bengicela nje sivale kanjalo Comrade President, thanks.
Uma sihlalo nami ngelinye ilanga ngithi anguphendule lo mbuzo. Ngiyophoqwa nabafowethu laba nodadewethu ukuthi phendula wena. Kodwa thina wena bona baphendule. Ngiyabuza.
Members of the media have been let off the hook here by the national chair. We're going to close off. Oh, there's a question there. Okay. Baba. Wakacacisa ngempela ba? Abakuzwe kahle bo. Bara ngibona bazovuma.
Na abantu abasemthethweni benza into abayithandayo. Safaka icala la ukuthi sarojwa siwinile. Alikaze liye enkantolo namhlanje. Why ningabuzi manje ngama journalists ufuna ukukhuluma amaqiniso alelizwe na? Mbuzo wodwa nje.
Last round of questions. I see there was 3 hands from what I saw. 1, 2, Londiwe. 3. Oh, Kosikone, you're still asking questions. Haibo. Ufuna ukubuza baba. Yena lo mbuzi ufuna ukubuza manje. Bakacekile ba. Injalo ba.
Thank you so much, Program Director. My name is Bongani Mkacho. For me, it cannot be a question. What I see is the leadership and wisdom of our president. And I'm happy that the media is all here today. No one is going to say anything about the leadership the leadership is.
Sorry, you're going to say you're from which media house? Remember, you have to mention your name and so we know who we're talking to.
Bongani Mkacho, it's my.
Which one?
I'm doing my own media.
What's the name of your?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, you can go ahead and finish off, please.
Let me down. Okay. I'm happy that the media is all here. We will not hear any other stories about the division of the leadership of MK. Why I'm saying this? I'm happy that the president has already introduced a new deputy, and I see, I'm observing myself, our legal who was the deputy president, it's here, personally. And you can see that the leadership is unity. So that's why I'm saying, as the president has said, you can even see that, yes, people, they...
But just speak. Thank you. That's a comment. We appreciate your insight. Thank you. For the first time, someone from the media says something, President. The next, Londiwe.
Thank you, Samulo. Greetings again. Londiwe, freelance journalist from Fuma FM and many other media houses in KZN. Kuke kuba nenkulumo esihlongozayo mayelana nokuthi umongameli uBaba Jacob Zuma kungenzeka avele laphana kulezi inkomfa ezimbili ezikhona that are running concurrently. Ingabe kuyiqiniso kangakanani lokho? Uma ngabe kuyiqiniso uDabu uzovela nini? Kuphinde kube khona any concern ethi mayelana ne-MK party during the time bezama ukuvimba ikomiti ukuthi liqhubeke. Ingabe lokho babekwenziswa ingoba nakho izathu ezinhle ezikhomba ukuthi ubaba is implicated na? Hello. Okugcina ngci ngisakubuza lutho manje. Kumayelana nama undocumented foreign nationals. Ngimbonile uMacingane la ngemuva ngiyibona ehola i-desk sorry Zondi. Ngicela ukubuza kuleyo ama foreign nationals ukuthi ngoba sazi ukuthi akhona ama operations afana nalawa aholwa uPremier kwaZulu Natal ubaba uThamsanqa Ntuli la athi khona engangeni ngesango iyafohla ebese kuba khona march and march dudula operations njalo njalo. I-MK party ngabe iyayihlanganisa yini nabo? Uma ngabe ukuthi ayihlanganisi kuphi okuhlukile bona abakwenzayo? Ngoba sisibabone bephumile siphume nabo kwesinye isikhathi kodwa emva kwalokho bese kuphelela lapho singababoni behlanganyela nalawo amanye operations. Thank you.
Thank you once again. I just wanted to get more in terms of the class action against the GNU as it pertains to the Soweto incident involving the children. If that could just be unpacked in terms of what that essentially is. All right, but that is the central question. Thank you.
No, ngithi ubaba lo uphendula manje simbuze umbuzo kaningi wawudoja ubuze yakhe ngithi no ayingabi ilokhuzane one sided ileyo nto engisho akakwazi wena is dominating lapha ubuza yonke into la babuza abanye abantu kodwa akafuni yena ukuphendula no ngiyala baba ngeke equal kulingana
Next, But sesiyayivala ke manje. Sesiyayivala. Which media house, bro? It'll be the last question.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Sizwe Sibongo ngwashozi from Sizwe OSTV on YouTube. I thought usisi wami uzobuza umbuzo othinta iMK Labour Desk. Who owns the MK Labour Desk? Because we saw ubaba uNgcobo TP Ngcobo, Bishop TP Ngcobo, ethi he registered a civic organization. So ube khona confusion nangesikhathi ukhanyile ephendulo ekutheni ecelwa phendulo ngaphawula. I'm happy also to Manzinzula, who owns MK Labour Desk, because TP Ngcobo he owns a MK Labour Desk because why register as a civic organization? Yabo.
Okay. SG, do you want to take that? Because I think we've stated that this presser, by the way, now I'm going to being opportunistic. This presser is the president's presser to announce the second deputy president. We're going to have a press briefing that's going to be led by the SG. We will discuss organizational issues. So, Ogunye Nis Alawe, got a new SG, 70 days in office. He's addressing and dealing with all those issues. Okay? Thanks.
Ngiyabonga Nhlams. Quickly, let's respect the fact that Ingwele Ubaba Wethu is the one that invited us here. What he invited us for has been delivered. But let me address these two things. Talking about commissions, that's done deal. There's no answer for that question. Undocumented foreigners, there is a forum that you can come to, not the press briefing today, that is being addressed. But to put you in a much comfortable position, uMkhonto has got 10 principles or values. I'm not going to mention all of them. The first one is Ubuntu Boto. Second one is unity in action. And then the third one talks exactly to the undocumented foreigners. Number one, it says patriotism, Pan-Africanism, and equality. We believe that we belong with the Africans in the African continent. We are South Africans, but we belong together. That is why our president is making these trips. Part of it is to make sure that we break the barriers of trade and economy. Now, undocumented Manglinza, I know Manglinza, we've had the discussion. We have your TP Ngcobo issue that must be addressed by my office, and I've engaged them. So it's not going to belong here. But quickly, is it right to have an unemployed South African in South Africa who has the same qualification as an undocumented foreigner who has work in South Africa, but you cannot work in another country? That is not proper. So if you are documented, we appreciate that. That's okay. But there's nothing right about taking someone undocumented who came through the window and is taking the jobs of the people in the country. We're addressing that issue. And I think that's it. And thank you.
Thank you very much, SG. That will be the end of our presser. Thank you very much for coming through, members of the media. Good afternoon. Drive home safe. We appreciate you. Thank you.